Welcome, wonderful people. This is me, Mr. Ndabezita, once again. And remember, this is where we left off when we were busy dealing with the delegates. Now here we are. We left off in here, so I'm just going to delete all this. And I'm just going to delete all that, and I'm just going to leave this as it is. But one most important thing, I want to go to view solution explorer, and what I want to do is to just come here and create a class. So let me just come here, create a class. So I'm going to add a new item, and from this new item, what I'm going to say is just I want to name this class as my class. Let me just name this as my class, and let me just create this class. Okay, all right, things are still running, so let us just try to create this class. There it is. I will just end the class and end the namespace. Okay, that is fine. So when I'm inside of this class, the very first thing that I will have a string. The string will be public, and it will be a read only string. So this is possible in C#. You can declare a string as only a read only string. Very important. So you can only read that value. You cannot write to that value. Right. I have this public. I can access the string outside of this class. It is read only. I can only read from that. All right, that is fine. And then secondly, I will have a private string which will be of type int, and I will call this the value. This is just a value. And then let me just have a property public int val. Very important. Let me just say end val here. All right, so I know with properties I must have a get and a set. Very important. So the very first thing that I'm going to do with this string is just to have a get. So I'll just say return, and what will it return now? It will just return the value. Okay, let me just not call this a value. Let me just call this let me call it an int value. So it will return an int value. Very good. All right, so this one, it's private. I know I cannot have access to it once that is why I'm creating this property, so that via the property I can have I can get and set the value for the int value, because it is private. We dealt with this when we looked at properties and all that, right? And then I'm going to have a set block. Now inside of this set block, there are some conditions first that one has to align himself with before you can even make any changes to this. So let me just come here. I want to guide you very well in this so that we don't lose any track. So let me just come here and just end set. Right, I want to run an if statement first. I want to say if the value that you are trying to assign to this private member, if that value is bigger or equals, sorry, bigger or equals to 0, and that value is less or equals to 10, what is it that I want now? I want the int value, the private member int value, to be equals to the value that you are assigning to that. This is exactly what I want. Now, if the value that you are assigning here is a value that is greater or equals to 10 or less or equals to 10. So suppose I am having a value, for example, 6. Is 6 bigger or equals to 0? Yes. Is 6 less or equals to 10? Yes. So this number fits the criteria that we wanted. Alright. So if the value that you are trying to assign to the private member is greater or equals to 0 and it is less or equals to 10, then I am allowing you to assign that value to the int value. This is exactly what we are saying. Nothing is new in here. We know that. So this is my if statement. Else if that value is not within that boundary, then I want to throw, what is it that I want to throw now? I want to throw new, I'm creating reserving memory for that, argument out of range exception. Very important. Argument out of range exception. And when I do this, it is very important that we read initializes a new instance of the argument out of range exception class. Now, what is it that I want to send in there? Now, first of all, let me have a string that will say val, which is the value, and then let me just have a comma there and just say the value, which is this value that you are trying to assign there. So it will say value and it will take that value that you have entered there. All right, and I can just do this even there. Let me just do this and let me just have some space. Okay, no, let me not have some space. Let me just leave it like this. So it will say value and then I will have a string, and let me just say value, that value must, let me just say must be let me just say value, which is that value, maybe you have entered 12. Value 12 must be so the variable value, so remember this is a string, so it will say value and show that value. So it will say maybe 15, or okay, let me just say here, let me say int value, very good, must be assigned a value between 0 and 10. and then I will close that. Now suppose this is what I'm saying there. I am just saying that. Right. So what am I saying? I'm just saying else throw new argument out of range exception. I'm creating memory for this class, and I'm saying the value, which is this is your value, and then I'm saying int value, which is the private member, must be assigned a value between 0 and 10. This is just exactly what I'm saying there. I'm not saying many things. All right, so this is our new way of using the exception here. Very, very important. Right, and then once that is done, everything is fine. So I will exit. I will exit the set block. That is okay. And then once I have exited the set block, and let's check here, I will also exit the property. Right. And when I am outside, I want to have a public, and then this public, what is it that I want to do? I want to override. And what is it that I want to override? Let me just have a public override string, and this string is what now? I want to override the dot to string. To string. Right. Public override the dot to string. Remember, this is a property. This is just a property. Sorry, this is a method that is in that class. So I am overriding this method, this built-in method, because I did not create any method, as you have saw, which is called to string, that I should override somewhere there. So this is the built-in to string method. So I want to override that, and I'm not going to use this. I'm going to use the fat arrow. So this is exactly what I'm going to do. Right, I want to override that, and I want to say, let me just say name, and I'm going to use concatenation plus name. So which name am I referring to here? Now I want you to check. You see the read only. I'm referring to this string. So I'm gonna have concatenation there, and then I am going to have a string. And what is this string now? Before, let me just have a new line and just say value. And once I have this value, let me just do this, and then let me have a concatenation and have this value. Now remember, which value are we referring to here? We are referring to the value of the property. Right, very important. So what I think I can do is to just have I can just use a cap here, because this is not going to create any problem for me. Right, there it is. So I am overriding the built-in dot to string method, and I'm using the fat arrow. So I will have name, and then it will say plus that name. So remember, what is that? This is just a read-only property. Sorry, read-only string. This is a read-only string. So I will have value, which is what now? A property. Very, very important. So this is something worthy of noting. So why do I have to do this? Why do I have to override the built-in string? Right, because here it is read only. And then I'm saying public override the built-in dot to string, and I'm saying name plus value plus the value. So it will have the name here and I will have the value. You will understand as we continue what is going to happen here. So when you assign that value via the property, that value will be there, because when you click this, you see it references to that. Okay, that is fine and nothing mysterious about that. So I'm going to have a private, and this will be my class. There it is. I know that this class doesn't accept any arguments, as you can see. Here we are in this class. I don't have a constructor that accepts any argument. So when I say private, my class, and then it has the same name as the name of a class, and then what should that tell you? It is a private. Somebody might say it is a private constructor, and then this must inherit from this what now? It inherits from this, and I will send in, because when you do this, let me show you something. When you say this, right, it's an error, and when you hover over here, it says constructor myClass cannot call itself. You see, so this is a constructor of my class, but it is private, and then this must refer to where now? Where will it refers to? Now I'm going to refer this to a what? A default name. So I'm just gonna say default name, and I'm going to do this, and I am inputting nothing inside there. There's nothing. There is nothing that I'm going to input inside there. There is nothing. Right. And then when we hover over here, my class does not contain a constructor that takes in one argument. This is true. We do not have in my class a constructor that takes in one argument, and this is true. So let me go and have a public constructor that accepts one argument then. If that is the case, then let me just come here, have a public constructor of my class that accepts one argument, and this will be of type string, and I will call this the new name. Right, and once I have done that inside of this constructor, now what is it that I'm going to do now? Right, inside of this, I want to say name. The name is equals to the new name. Now let me cast your mind back. I have a read-only string there as a field, and I don't want to only read that name because I'm not going to prompt for that name. In fact, I want to write to that name, so I need to override the read-only string by saying public override string, and what now? The to string. I'm overriding this. I am overriding this read-only string. I want to write to that. So when I am here, I am overriding the name, and via the property I will assign this name. I will have the name and the value. So in order to do this the right way, I'm having a private class. Here it is a constructor that is private. Now this is inheritance. It needs to refer to another another object, and because I have not yet created that constructor, here I am creating a public constructor that accepts one argument because I have passed in an argument there as a string. And what is this argument? The argument just says the default name. This is the default name. Whenever you instantiate this object, it will already have a default name as a string. It will just have a string, which is this string is what now? It is the default name. So there it is. So when you accept, when you pass in a new name on this constructor, the new name, and then you are saying a new name equals to name. So what does that mean? It will come here when you invoke. What is this now? This is a method. This method that overrides that read-only string. This method will therefore be able to be assigned a name. So the new name that you pass via the public constructor will be passed into what? It will be passed into this read-only string. Okay, that is fine. And then once that has been done, name is equals to the new name. I want to say the int value is equals to 0. Once you have signed new name to name, make the int value to be 0. Which one is that? This one, the private member. I have access of this private member because I'm inside of the class where it was declared. So once you assign that name, make the int value to be 0. Okay, that is fine. Nothing is new with this. We understand that. Now, secondly, what is it that we want to do now? So secondly, what we will do, I think it is very important that we try by all means now to go to the main. Now, let us go to the main and create now an object of my class. Here I am, and I'm going to create an object of my class, which I will call my obj, my object, and I'm going to reserve memory for that. And then immediately when you do that, look what is happening. It has to accept a string which is new name, and I'm going to pass in my object. So I'm going to say my object. Okay, that is fine. And then let me just have a right line. Let me just have a right line, and I will just say my obj created, because I have created that object. There it is, it has been created. And then secondly, what I want to do, I want to have a for loop. Let me just have a for loop, and this for loop will start at I. Sorry, let me just say int I equals start at -1, start at -1, and then I should be less than 0, and then I will increment that by 1. So int I will start at -1, and then I will be less than 0, and then I will increment that by 1. Right, okay, when that is that, I want to have a try block. Right, in this try block, what is it that I am going to insert there? Let me just have a right line, and in this right line I will use interpolation. Let me close this, and what I will do there, let me first have a new line, and I will say attempting to assign, and then I will just have my I, attempting to assign that to my obj dot value, and I will just do this. So this is the first right line that I want to have. Right, and then I will call my object, my obj, and then dot, and I know that I have a property that I call value, and I will say the value is equals to I. Right, and I know that I has a value of -1. I know this. So this is going to throw an exception because the condition was in such a way that the value must be a positive value that is less or equals to 10. So I know that this is going to throw an exception. And let's check. Why will it throw an exception? If that value is not like that, int value, remember what is this? This is a private member, but I'm going to assign the private member value via the property. Very, very important. So when I say my object here, my object dot value equals -1, I know this is going to throw an error, because if that value is -1, remember this will be assigned via that. If that value is equals to -1, let's check this. If that value that you are trying to assign here is equals to -1, the value there, so we are going to have a problem. It is going to throw an error. Remember, this is very important. We are saying here my object that value equals I, and what is I currently? -1. So you are trying to assign that to val via the object. So when val is -1, I know that if it will not enter inside of the if, because it is not within this boundary, it will throw an exception. Very important. All right. And then once that has been done, I want to have a right line. And in this right line, I'm also going to use interpolation. And then I'm going to just say value, and I will say my obj dot value assigned to my obj dot value. Right, this is exactly what I will say. This is my try block. the code that I know might throw a possibility of error, and I know it will do so. This one, so this is my try block. Then I need to catch that error. And what type of an error do you think will be shown? I'll go to the exception class and I'll just create an object for that. And we have dealt with this. Nothing is mysterious about this. And let me just have a right line, and then just say the interpolation will be frequently used in here, and then we will say exception, and I will specify here, I will say e dot, and I will get the type, and this method doesn't accept any properties, and then I will use the dot, and I will just say full name, right? Get type dot full name, and then I will be done, right? And so this looks exactly like a property. Let's go there and check. It looks something like a property of that class. It looks very much like a property of that class. So I will just say exception e dot get type dot full name, so it will get that full name for us, and then we will say throw. So exception e dot get type dot full name, that is thrown. Okay, that is fine. We will just get everything there, and then let me have another right line, and in this right line let me just use interpolation once again, and in the second right line I will say message. I will just say message, and let's just have a new line there, and let me just do something. Let me just do this, and what I'm going to do there, I'm just going to say let me just do this. Let me just do this. Let me just do this. I'm going to fix this in just a few times. Okay, let me just do this and just say e dot message, right? And then let me just, after that, let me just have let me just have this, right? We are therefore saying let me just do this. It's very, very important. So we will just say message, and then we will have a new line, and we will have that e dot message, so it will provide us with the message that we need. Okay, let me get out of the for loop, and then when I go out of the for loop, I want to have a right line, and in this right line I want to first of all have a new line, and then I want to say outputting my obj dot to string dot to string, and then I can just have those dots there. Right, that is the first thing that I want to do, and then I want to have another write line, and in this second write line I want to go to my object, my obj dot to string. Right, and it will accept nothing. And then thirdly, I want to have a write line, and in this write line I just want to say my obj dot to string. Very important output. And then when I'm done with that, I want to have another write line where I can say let me just do this. Let me have a new line, and let me just say my double int property, and I want to say this is equals to 5. And then once that has been done, let me just have the last write line, and I will use interpolation for that. And what is it that I want to say? I want to say getting my doubled int prop of the number 5, and I will say is, and I will just come here and say my object dot, and then when I try to say my doubled prop, I'm having a problem there. I am just having a problem there. And the question is, why am I having a problem there? Why shouldn't I be able to get that doubled value? Now, I think we should look at that, because I do not have a method that calculates for your double. I just don't have that. Now let us go back inside of where was I? Right, let's just go back inside here, and then when we exit this constructor, let me show you. When we exit this constructor, there's something very important that we need to do. Let's have a private. Let me have a private int, and I'm going to call this my doubled int. My doubled int. And I am going to assign this a value of 5. Very important. This is just a variable that is private, and I'm assigning that a value of 5. And I'm going to have a public one. I'm going to have a public int, and I am also going to call this my doubled prop, and I know this is just going to be equals to what now? It is just going to be equals to my my doubled int, and then I'm just going to multiply that by 2. So I am having this public int. Okay, let me use the fat arrow here. Let me just try to use the fat arrow here so that I can get rid of that. So what am I saying here? I have this property. This is a property, and I'm trying to multiply that. So this property, public int, it is public because I want to have access to that. Public int, my doubled prop will be my doubled int multiplied by 2, so that when I come in here I can say dot and I will have access to this property. All right, and then once that is done, I think we will be able to find in the results that we want. Okay, let us just try to run this code. I think there are a few things that I need to explain long before we can even run this code. I think it is very, very important that I try to explain what is happening here. And I'm sorry for wasting your time if I will be doing so. Now, it is very important that we understand something. First of all, we create a class that is called my class, right? I have a read only string here. So this is very important. This is just a read only string, right? And I have a private int value. So I know that it is private. When you are outside of this class, you will not have access to this. You must have access to that via a property, and it has to be public. Hence I have a val there, and I'm saying get return the private member, and then set. If the value that you are trying to set it's bigger than 0, bigger or equals to 0, less or equals to 10, then it can assign that value to int value. Nothing new there. Else, if that value is not like that, I'm going to the else, because I'm not prompting the user for anything. I am just creating these conditions. Else, it will throw a new argument out of range exception, because that's exactly what will happen here. If you did not insert that value, that simply means you have set a value that is outside the boundary. So it will throw a new argument out of range exception. First of all, it will display, look what is happening here, this new argument out of range exception. So what does it do now? It represents a text as a sequence of UTF-16 code units. Parentheses can be removed. This is what they are saying. So they are saying that we can remove those parentheses, but we are not going to do that. Okay, that it's fine, but we can remove them if that suits them best. Then we can remove them. But when we remove them, do you see? Okay, I can just have the last one. I can just have the last one. There it is, and you see you have a problem. So we need those parentheses. Why? Because this one closes with that one, and this one closes with this one. So we are saying throw an argument out of range exception, and we will have this string value with those colons, and then it will tell us the value that you are trying to assign, and then we will have a string that says integer value must be assigned a value between 0 and 10. Okay, that's fine. And then that's the end of my set and the end of my property. And then when I'm here, public override string to string. So what am I overriding? I'm overriding this read only string. So hence I'm saying, so this is the first occurrence of this string, so it is virtual. So here I am overriding that using the fat arrow. So I'm saying name will be that name, and then the value will be that, and then it will display this after on another line. And then here, let me start first here. I am creating a constructor that is private. This one is private, so private, my class, it doesn't accept any argument. Then the this, now the this has to refer to what now? Because if you remember when we have it over here, a string new name, you see, so why is it saying a new name? It requires a string. Why? Because here you have a public constructor that accepts one argument of string, so this will refer to this class. It will refer to this class. So this, in fact, this calls in the constructor of the parent. So we can look at this as the superclass and this as a subclass. This is the parent, this is the child. So because the parent has the constructor accepts in a string, therefore this will also require a string, and the string is a default name. Very important. And then I am trying to set the constructor the name, which is this read-only name, but I have overridden that here. Name equals new name, and once you have assigned that name, make the integer value to be the int value, the private member to be 0. Very important. So when you instantiate an object of my class and you send in, let me show you, you instantiate that and you send in my object, what is the value of the int value now? The value is 0. Very, very important. Right, private int my doubled equals this, and you understand what is happening here. So we go to the main, and when I'm inside of the main, the first thing I'm saying is I'm creating an object of my class. That's fine. And then I am having this. I know initially the value of int value is 0. That's fine. And then I'm just having this right line, my object created, because there it is. And then I'm running a for loop, int start at -1, I less than 0, I plus plus. That's fine. So this is going to generate an error because I'm saying now here, via the object, the property value, I am changing this value. I said the value is 0 here, but when I'm here, I am overriding that value because this is a property, and what the property will do, remember, let me show you. Where is my property? Let's go here. You see what I have in here? I have a value. So let's come here. So where is that property which is val? Here it is. So the property here assigns a value to a what now? To a private member. It returns a private member, and it also assigns that value. So look what you have done here. It will assign a value which is what? I is currently -1. So it will come here and assign a value of what to int val, to -1. So it will return a -1 here. The value is -1. Now, in the check statement, the value which is -1, it's not within this boundary, therefore it will throw an exception. Right. And then here you are just having a right line, and then in this right line you are just saying value which is this assigned to my object. Yes, we have assigned that to your object. True. And then I'm catching that exception E, which is the class, the super class of all classes of exception. And then I'm saying exception E dot get type dot full name. So inside of this method, dot, we have what we say where we call a full name. And what is this? It's a property. We have this property called full name throw. And then I'm having e.message. This one, it's very brief. We dealt with this. You understand what is happening. And then I'm just having this. So let's just run this code. I'm very tired explaining here. Let's just see exactly what will happen. Alright, let's just wait for it to complete. And it is still running. There it is. And then we have my obj created attempting to assign -1 to my object. And then you see exception system dot argument of exception thrown. And the message in value must be assigned a value of 0 and 10 parameter value. Actual value was -1. Outputting my object dot to string name, my object value, it's 0. Remember, because this is a loop, it will run. Let me show you. It will run when this is -1. It will run when this, remember, it's -1, and then it will be -1 for the first time. And then once you incremented that by 1, remember, you are just incrementing that by 1, and then it will run until the value of I is I, because remember, for the first time I is -1. It's -1 less than 0, yes, therefore it will go, and so on and so on. Right, and then this is what we have for the second time. Okay, let me just do this. Sorry, let me just do that. Let me just do this. Let me just do that. And then when we are here, we have a val value of 0. My object dot to string output, my doubled integer property is 5. Getting my doubled integer property of 5, it will be 10. And this is just basically how the code just works. So guys, please try to sit down, repeat this as many times as you can until everything is fine and you understand what is happening, and then I will see you in the next tutorial.